December 16, 1944. 05:30 hours. Schnee Eifel Ridge, Belgian-German border. Icy terrain splintered underfoot as German troops geared up for the impending Battle of the Bulge, marking their most ambitious assault since 1940. On the opposite side of the ridge, 200,000 Wehrmacht troops felt confident in their grasp of American fighters. Propaganda had assured them that U.S. personnel depended on superior resources over true combat resolve, portraying their conscript troops as lacking the toughness of Prussian veterans. Yet, within mere hours, this misconception would prove disastrously flawed. The raw calculus of armament superiority was set to impart a harsh truth, dismantling every preconception the Germans held regarding their adversaries. Every U.S. foot soldier bore what General George S. Patton, in a letter dated January 26, 1945, to the Chief of Ordnance, dubbed the finest combat tool ever invented, the M1 Garand semi-automatic rifle. Facing this firepower, Wehrmacht units soon realized their bolt-action Kar 98K rifles were utterly inferior. The typical German infantryman in 1944 wielded a weapon nearly identical to his father's from 1918, the Karabiner 98K, a bolt-action design rooted in the Mauser model of 1898. Following each discharge, the user needed to cycle the bolt by hand, raise it, draw it rearward, slide it ahead, and secure it. During battle, even a skilled marksman could manage no more than 15 deliberate shots per minute. Wehrmacht squads centered their tactics on the MG-42 machine gun, a superb piece that unleashed 200 rounds per minute. The rifle carriers mainly served to safeguard and feed this heavy weapon. Their Kar 98K arms ranked as auxiliary tools for targeted strikes and close protection. Such strategy had proven effective from the streets of Warsaw through Paris and up to Moscow's outskirts. However, U.S. forces had fundamentally altered infantry warfare principles. Each American rifleman equipped himself with a semi-automatic that delivered 8 rounds at the speed of trigger pulls, followed by a swift reload via an en-bloc clip in less than 3 seconds. In contrast to a German unit's single machine gun paired with 9 bolt actions, an American squad featured 1 machine gun, 1 fully automatic rifle, and 11 semi-automatics. This imbalance in shooting power proved decisive. The awakening traced back to North Africa in 1943, when many German accounts were initially brushed off as exaggerated. Post-clashes at Kasserine Pass, officers forwarded dispatches to Berlin highlighting U.S. troops' apparent widespread use of semi-automatic rifles. The Wehrmacht High Command's reply exposed their failure to comprehend American manufacturing might. They posited likely mix-ups with full autos or Thompson submachine guns, insisting mass issuance of semi-automatics defied feasible U.S. output capabilities. Their error was profound. From February 1943 onward, Springfield Armory and Winchester Repeating Arms churned out more than 4,000 M1 Garands daily. By D-Day, production had surpassed 3 million units. Despite forced labor and full-scale conscription, German factories had only tinkered with prototype semi-automatics. U.S. Army logs from the North African theater recount German captives' astonishment upon reviewing American logistics data. A seized German assessment from Tunisia, preserved in the U.S. National Archives, declared, U.S. infantry formations seem to issue semi-automatic arms as routine gear. Confirmation seems implausible as it demands production scale exceeding credible limits. June 6, 1944, Omaha Beach, 0800 hours. The 352nd Infantry Division held vantage points above Easy Red Sector. Captured German logs from the fight detailed the staggering intensity of American small arms barrages. A post-war analysis from the Germans observed advancing foe troops sustain unbroken rifle barrages. No evident delays for bolt cycling. Output rivals or surpasses our machine gun nests. The Bocage skirmishes after D-Day highlighted the firepower gap starkly. In Normandy's tight landscapes, firefights seldom stretched beyond 100 meters. Long-distance precision tactics lost relevance. Instead, rapid, precise suppression became key. A seized training memo from the 3rd Fallschirmjäger Division, dated July 1944, conceded the U.S. edge. Adversary rifle teams produce output matching our heavy gun emplacements. Traditional pinning maneuvers fail against semi-automatic armed foes. Wehrmacht ordnance experts inspecting taken M1 Garands marveled at the precision engineering achieved in vast quantities. The design harnessed a gas-operated mechanism where propellant gases from each round drove the cycle. The N-block clip enabled near-instant refreshes. Impressively, these weapons adhered to standards of craftsmanship that German mass output lines couldn't replicate. A Wehrmacht intel summary from August 1944, seized from archives and now British military records, observed that the M1 rifle exemplified mass manufacturing methods beyond their reach. Its parts exhibited exacting precision upheld over vast quantities. Parts swapped seamlessly between units, with any piece from one weapon fitting flawlessly into another. The German G43 served as their effort to counter the M1 Garand, yet industrial constraints shaped the outcome. In contrast to every U.S. foot soldier equipped with an M1, the G43 went mainly to marksmen and elite units. Verified German output totaled just 42,713 units across the whole conflict, against more than 5.4 million M1 Garands. The Battle of the Bulge highlighted this firepower gap in its harshest form. German troops secured initial shock value, striking with vast manpower edges in various areas. Still, U.S. platoons, often outmatched and encircled on paper, defended their ground thanks to unmatched shooting power. On December 17, 1944, at Elsenborn Ridge, post-war U.S. Army debriefs, kept in official repositories, captured the 99th Infantry Division's ordeal. Facing odds of 3-1 in places, they clung to positions largely via relentless rifle barrages. An enlisted leader recounted, "We simply kept shooting. 8 rounds, reload, another 8. The Germans faced an impenetrable barrage of bullets and couldn't push forward. Enemy losses in the offensive's opening week surpassed all projections." A seized directive from the 12th SS Panzer Division remarked, "U.S. rifle fire halts advances despite our numbers. Treat each foe outpost like a machine gun nest." The figures painted a clear picture. By December 1944, U.S. plants had churned out over 4 million M1 Garands. Springfield Armory hit its high point in January 1944, crafting an impressive 122 10 rifles that period, 3,936 daily or 164 hourly amid non-stop shifts. The Armory's staff reflected broader U.S. wartime efforts. Come June 1943, females made up 43% of the labor force, 5,110 women out of 12,350 overall. These employees, often fresh to factory work, crafted arms surpassing Nazi benchmarks. Winchester repeating arms added 513,280 pieces to the cause. International Harvester, known for agricultural gear, adapted effectively to deliver 337,623 M1 Garands. Harrington and Richardson supplied 428,600 more during and right after the war. Spreading production across sites ensured no airstrike could cripple U.S. rifle output. The M1 Garand reshaped foot soldier strategies. U.S. teams executed advancing volleys, progressing under steady suppressive dominance. Kept 1943 Army instruction videos, stored in archives, depict the method. Troops moving in relays, each delivering 8 deliberate shots on the go. Nazi guidelines in their 1943 foot soldier guidebook relied on manual rifles for shoot and advance maneuvers. Their estimates for pinning fire, bullet use, and charges all hinged on firing speeds that Americans tripled. The 1944 U.S. Army Field Manual, 7 and 10, for rifle platoons, centered doctrines on rapid-fire semis. The M1's automatic loading formed the core of squad shooting strength. Every maneuver presupposed ongoing output from the unit's rifles. Such weapons thrived only with ample bullets, where U.S. output again shone. The Lake City facility in Missouri, spanning 3,900 acres, generated billions of cartridges over the war. Though exact.3006 3006 figures elude confirmation, overall ammo tallied 7 billion rounds, enabling extraordinary shooting rates. Wehrmacht logistics logs show Germans allotted about 60 rounds per man for attacks. U.S. troops toted 80 in N-block clips as standard, backed by endless replenishment from expansive supply chains. In January 1945, as the enemy push faltered, American units launched a fierce counterpush amid freezing temps. Harsh winter that ought to aid those holding ground instead underscored yet another M1 edge. Chill-crippled manual rifles function, numb grips fumbled with levers, lubricants congealed, jamming mechanisms. The M1 Garand, via its self-loading design, demanded just trigger squeezes, usable even in thick mittens. N-block clips slipped in fast despite stiff digits, unlike Germans singly charging their Kar 98K clips. Army health logs from the Bulge campaign highlight far fewer frostbite cases among U.S. riflemen. The advantages of American troops over their German counterparts were in part due to reduced vulnerability during the reloading and shooting processes. In March 1945, as U.S. forces geared up to traverse the Rhine, the German troops confronted insurmountable odds. A captured planning report from Remagen outlined defensive needs using conventional firepower proportions. It figured that a single defender could handle 3 assailants, a principle rooted in military theory dating back to Napoleon. However, this estimate relied on comparable firing speeds. Armed with M1 Garands, the American assailants could unleash 3 times the volume of shots compared to their German foes. The classic defensive calculations fell apart. The Rhine advances succeeded with fewer losses than expected, mainly because intense small arms barrages pinned down German strongholds. The tale of the M1 Garand was tightly linked to America's wartime industrial surge. The Springfield Armory in Massachusetts evolved from a small federal depot into a vast manufacturing hub. Its primary assembly hall extended more than a mile. Every rifle underwent 1,000 distinct steps on dedicated equipment. Output achieved remarkable streamlining. In 1940, assembling one M1 Garand demanded 117 man-hours. By 1943, that figure fell to 75 man-hours. In 1945, the Springfield Armory finished a rifle using only 31 man-hours of work and at a mere $31 each, a sharp decline from the initial $83 at the conflict's outset. The shift in the labor force was striking. Women's share of the workforce climbed from 20% in June 1942 to 43% the following year. These employees, prepared in mere weeks instead of years, handled precise machines that guaranteed flawless component compatibility, a feat unattainable by German artisans even after prolonged apprenticeship. Mastering the M1 Garand proved far simpler than with bolt-action models. U.S. Army training logs indicate that new soldiers reached foundational skill in just 2 weeks, versus the months needed for bolt-action mastery. The semi-auto mechanism tolerated sloppy handling. Even an anxious trooper could produce useful firepower. At Fort Benning, Georgia, the Infantry Academy overhauled its curriculum to center on the M1 Garand. 1943 evaluation summaries revealed sharp gains in recruit performance scores following the switch to semi-automatics. The proportion of soldiers earning expert status rose by 40% over prior bolt-action regiments. Prior to D-Day, the fight in Italy highlighted the M1's edge. From January to May 1944 at Monte Cassino, the 34th, 36th, and 45th Infantry Divisions clashed with crack German airborne units in rugged hill combat, where old-school tactics favored bolt actions for their extended range accuracy. Yet U.S. units discovered that sheer firepower output outweighed pinpoint shots in such elevated battles. The capacity to swiftly target numerous foes amid steep ascents turned the tide. Although detailed records of M1 deployment at Monte Cassino remain scarce, these outfits carried full complements of M1 Garands per their official tables of organization and equipment. Efforts by the Germans to rival the M1 Garand utterly flopped. The G43, their semi-automatic rifle, plagued by dependability issues and manufacturing constraints, saw confirmed output of just 42,713 units, under 10% of U.S. M1 totals. Assembling the G43 involved heavy manual adjustments. Maintaining standards became unfeasible amid wartime chaos. Each piece demanded expert upkeep from skilled technicians. Frequent jams, as noted in German ordnance dispatches, rendered them little more than costly bludgeons. Wehrmacht evaluations seized by Allies repeatedly deemed the G43 subpar to the M1 Garand in durability, precision, and upkeep simplicity. More pointedly, German infantrymen preferred seized M1 Garands over their native semi-automatics whenever feasible, flouting orders against employing faux weaponry. Intelligence from the Pacific Front, relayed via secure networks, supplied German planners with further proof of U.S. small arms dominance. Japanese units, employing strategies akin to German methods and wielding bolt-action Arisakas, faced annihilation from M1 armed Americans. The Iwo Jima clash from February to March 1945, coinciding with the Rhine operations, illustrated how U.S. fighters could overwhelm die-hard resistors in brutal landscapes via individual-level firepower supremacy. Such accounts, disseminated to German leaders via impartial intermediaries, deepened their sense of despair. After the war, inquiries by the U.S. Army Center of Military History yielded vital insights into German responses to American gunpowder. SLA marshals' frontline interrogations, right after battles, routinely captured German captives, voicing astonishment at U.S. rifle prowess. Field Marshal General Albert Kesselring, who led German troops in Italy, reflected in his post-war accounts that the American foot soldiers, equipped with their semi-automatic rifles, held a firepower edge we simply couldn't match. Our edge and tactics became irrelevant whenever each opposing fighter unleashed 8 shots for every one of ours. General Hasso von Manteuffel, overseeing operations at the Battle of the Bulge, shared similar insights during his post-war questioning. The U.S. semi-automatic weapon provided their ground forces with a game-changing superiority. Bolt-action firearms failed to deliver enough covering fire for our troops to advance effectively. The full picture emerges from the manufacturing totals. Official figures confirm M1 Garand output: Springfield Armory at 4,888, Thanekin Halan 69, Winchester at 513,880, International Harvester 337,023, and a separate total of 428,600, yielding 5,472 units overall. For German semi-automatics, records show the G43 in all forms totaling 42,013, a ratio of 13:6.1 or 6.1, tipping the scales toward the U.S. At their height, Springfield Armory churned out 3,936 M1 Garands daily back in January 1944. Even combining every German plant, they managed only about 300 such rifles each day, all while sustaining millions of M1 Garands that demanded an enormous support network. Come 1945, U.S. logistics pipelines were shipping 20 million ammunition rounds per day to units in Europe, along with enough replacement components to keep 3 million rifles operational and full repair services at base facilities. Wehrmacht supply logs reveal their constant battles just to meet fundamental ammo needs. The routine 60 rounds allotted per soldier for attacks looked feeble next to the American standard of 80 rounds, backed by endless replenishment options. Economics played an equally pivotal role. By 1945, each M1 Garand ran the U.S. just $31, down from $83 at the conflict's start thanks to streamlined manufacturing. The German G43, by contrast, demanded around 350 Reichsmarks, roughly quadruple the cost after parity adjustments. Still, the M1 offered superior durability and simpler upkeep. This affordability rippled across the entire provisioning process. U.S. plants relied on dedicated equipment that called for hefty upfront spending, but slashed individual expenses sharply. German workshops, hit by raids and forced to shift sites repeatedly, never scaled up efficiently. U.S. National Archives hold plentiful evidence of German astonishment at American armaments. Captured intel from POW sessions repeatedly highlights troops and leaders marveling over U.S. personal weapons prowess. A standout item is a seized German instruction pamphlet from December 1944, designed to ready soldiers for clashes with U.S. units. Treat foe rifle handlers as light machine gunners, revise classic advance and cover methods to fit, brace for non-stop shooting from every hostile spot. General George S. Patton'S view rang true in the end. In his letter dated January 26, 1945, to Major General Levin H. Campbell, Jr., head of ordnance, Patton declared, "In my opinion, the M1 rifle is the greatest battle implement ever devised." He made this remark after witnessing its effectiveness across the European theater. Patton grasped that victories stemmed not from lone bravery, but from average GIs unleashing unmatched volley power. His Third Army's swift pushes owed much to foot soldiers who could pour on intense fire, sans relying on heavy guns. John C. Garand, the Canadian-born American innovator, crafted far beyond a mere firearm. Originally named Jean Tous Garand, he started prototyping at Springfield Armory in 1919. His blueprint, completed in 1932 and formally approved on January 9, 1936, suited high-volume assembly by everyday laborers. Notably, Garand turned over every patent to the federal government gratis, foregoing any earnings even as millions rolled out. His approach, focusing on ease, dependability, and buildability, captured core U.S. manufacturing ethos. The M1 Garand embodied Yankee ideals forged in metal and timber, unlike the German emphasis on crack squads with bespoke gear. U.S. strategy armed all riflemen with top-tier tools. It was sheer volume output that spread cutting-edge power to the masses. Such equalizing of combat strength mirrored broader American life. The gun that clinched the victory came from assembly lines manned by homemakers and youths, shouldered by everyday recruits, and fueled by a democratic war machine that equated factory might with battlefield strength. The M1 Garand's edge carried broader strategic weight past mere skirmishes. U.S. leaders could devise plans secure in the knowledge that their grunts started with built-in shooting supremacy. German officers, meanwhile, planned around the reality of being outmatched from the ground up. This shaped patrols as much as grand assaults. American squads roamed freely, assured of their armament lead. German units demanded machine gun backing for any assault, which restricted their operational options. Experts in military history routinely highlight the M1 Garand as a pivotal element in the U.S. triumph. In his book, The Sharp End of War, Dr. John Ellis determined that the superior firepower of American infantrymen led to a 40% drop in losses versus those armed with bolt-action weapons. The U.S. Army's official account, United States Army in World War II, observes, the semi-automatic rifle provided American infantry with an edge of dominance that shone through in all battlefields. In our time, the M1 Garand endures as a legendary piece, showcased in museums across the globe as the firearm that secured victory in World War II. To German troops who encountered it, the rifle embodied America's industrial might, overpowering their entrenched military heritage. The weapon that General Patton hailed as the finest tool of combat ever created validated his words with undeniable proof. It didn't merely succeed in shootouts, it showed how an industrial democracy could surpass and outmatch totalitarian aggression in output and armament. The M1 Garand's edge re-emerged during the Korean War from 1950 to 1953 as communist troops mounted massed charges. UN units outfitted with M1s unleashed enough volume of fire to shatter attacks that would have overrun troops relying on bolt actions. Notably, when West Germany reformed its forces into the Bundeswehr in the 1950s, it swiftly embraced semi-automatic rifles, absorbing the harsh teachings from 1944 to 1945. No contemporary army would again outfit its foot soldiers mainly with bolt-action rifles. All current assault rifles draw their core concepts from the M1 Garand's achievements. The idea of semi-automatic capability for each soldier, pioneered by the M1, evolved into standard military practice. The German Sturmgewehr 44, born from battling M1 Garands, shaped the Soviet AK-47, which in turn impacted every later infantry arm. The M1 Garand didn't simply claim a conflict, it transformed the nature of combat, revealing that personal-level firepower could rival the impact of heavy guns or tanks. The M1 Garand captured the essence of American manufacturing principles. Prioritizing mass assembly over handmade finesse, each part was crafted for assembly on dedicated machines run by minimally skilled laborers. This method would shape worldwide industry for generations post-war. In contrast, German methods favored expert artisans crafting small runs of intricate gear, while Americans pushed for streamlined designs churned out in vast numbers by everyday staff. The G43's shortcomings extended beyond engineering. They were rooted in ideology. It suited a production framework unable to fulfill its demands. The M1 Garand signified far beyond battlefield success. It illustrated how a democratic industrial base could vanquish totalitarian warfare via better coordination and output. Each rifle underscored that free laborers in a republic could exceed the yields of coerced workers in an autocracy. German fighters confronting M1 Garands absorbed this truth most viscerally, via relentless barrages. They had been assured of their prowess against soft gear-dependent foes, yet they found themselves outdated warriors confronting combat's evolution. As German armies capitulated in May 1945, their downfall spanned military, technological, and economic realms. The M1 Garand loomed as the emblem of this collapse. A factory-forged arm surpassing German artistry, wielded by volunteer fighters who bested elite professionals, the figures were indisputable. 5.4 million M1 Garands against 42,913 German semi-automatic rifles, a 3.1 edge in squad-level firepower, costs slashed by a quarter via streamlined processes, training periods cut in half by inherent ease. Beyond the data lay stark human truths U.S. troops endured thanks to their M1 Garand's fire superiority. German troops perished because their Kar 98K rifles rendered them outmatched in every clash. The M1 Garand fulfilled Patton'S bold claim as the supreme instrument of war. It claimed victory not via sophistication or accuracy, but via sheer deluge of fire from millions of units born of democracy's factories. To the German soldiers opposing it, the M1 Garand transcended mere superiority. It invalidated their whole belief system. They clung to notions of ethnic dominance, martial legacy, and fighter ethos. The M1 Garand revealed that industrial prowess, open production, and common defenders could dismantle the globe's premier professional army. The gun that clinched the war achieved more than vanquishing adversaries. It affirmed that open societies could marshal, fabricate, and battle with greater efficacy than oppressive regimes. In its 8-round clips and semi-automatic bursts, American democracy found its ultimate expression. Democracy had demonstrated its dominance against German fascism. The troops from Germany were truly incensed by General Patton's most formidable weapon in combat. Yet, that anger amounted to an admission that they had confronted the incorrect foe using improper arms founded on flawed premises. Through each intense exchange of fire, the M1 Garand instilled in them the lesson that contemporary warfare triumphs through laborers rather than fighters, through manufacturing prowess instead of gallant figures, through fresh ideas over entrenched customs. Ultimately, this rifle's paramount achievement lay in showing how the industrial strength of a free society could subdue any adversary, regardless of their expertise, drive, or fervent beliefs. Those German fighters who reviled the distinctive clink of discharging en-bloc clips were, in truth, lamenting their inability to grasp the true nature of their opponent, not merely a military force, but the very forge of democratic might. Today, the M1 Garand endures in armed forces, exhibits, and personal archives across the globe. Remarkably operational even after 80 years, it continues to be revered for its groundbreaking engineering. It symbolizes U.S. inventiveness, manufacturing dominance, and the core democratic ideal that superior gear belongs to all troops, not merely the privileged few. To the combatants who encountered it on the field, the M1 Garand left an indelible mark. The firearm that transformed ordinary civilians in uniform into unmatched combatants by leveraging superior mechanics. It established that advancement and mass output, rather than doctrines and heritage, would shape the course of future conflicts. This unparalleled tool of battle had secured its reputation via irrefutable excellence across every theater of operations it graced, wielded by fighters who realized they grasped in their grip the free world's retort to oppression.